Welcome and join us on our journey as we interview everyday people and ask them that very question of who am I?
Who am I? Who am I?
Who am I? My name is Tara Dames. I am 36 years old and I am from Nassau, Bahamas. I am a human resource professional with a focus on talent management. So that includes recruitment, development, and retention of staff for an organization. Outside of work, I have quite a bit of civic involvement. So I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am a Toastmaster. And I also volunteer with an organization called the Physically Challenged Children's Committee. How do I find balance? I think balance is challenging, and I don't know that it's something that's ever possible to find, but what I do think is that we prioritize, and our priorities change as our life changes. It can change from day to day, week to week, year to year, and I think our priorities change based on what's happening in our lives. So at one point in our lives, it may be career. At another point, it may be family. And so I think we just go with the flow as it relates to our priorities and how they change. And if balance comes, it comes. If it doesn't, we just roll with it. All right, so my journey. I actually started college as a biology major. I wanted to become a doctor. And around about my second year, I started to think about whether this was really what I wanted to do, the path that I wanted to take. And I started to think about what my options were. And I thought back, in high school, back in the 2000s, there wasn't a lot of conversation around careers and the different fields and the options that there were for careers. There was lawyer, there was doctor, there was teacher, there was accountant. And so I decided, okay, I wanted to be a doctor. So I went off to school as a biology major. My second year, I decided to make that change, and I did a number of different assessments and personality tests and just looking at the different options there were. And I came to realize that business might be the path for me. Now, at my college, you couldn't just be a general business major. You had to also declare a focus or a concentration. And being new to studying business, I had prepared throughout high school to study biology and become a doctor. I had never studied business. And so I wanted to choose a focus that would allow me to have the broadest view of the field of business. And I ended up choosing human resource management. And so that's how I ended up as a human resource management concentration within the business major. And once I completed college, I returned home with my business degree, concentrating in HR management. I tried to get into the HR field. And that was when I learned how difficult it was to really get your foot in the door, because it seemed like a lot of the HR jobs out there wanted you to come with experience to get experience. And so I actually spent a few years in insurance. I worked for an insurance company in operations. I spent 3 years there, and then I went to another organization where I was working in administration. And so at this point, I had started to realize that although I don't have HR experience, I can build and develop transferable skills. And so I looked to take on roles that would help me to develop those skills. And after about 6-7 years, I landed my first job in HR at the organization where I started my career at in operations. And so I left the company on good terms. I was a good employee. They remembered that I had pretty good performance, and they were willing to give me this opportunity based off of what they knew about me, my potential, my degree. And in 2016, I landed my first HR job, and the rest is history. So I've been in the field for almost 10 years, and I love it. And I love the opportunity to pass on my knowledge and help other people enter the field and to grow their careers. The inspiration. I would say, I kind of went back and forth on it for a while. Coming from a family where, they were very excited to see me go off to school and potentially become the first doctor in my family, I did struggle with that for a while. but I ultimately decided that it was something that I needed to do. So one thing I knew that would help comfort me in making that decision and that transition was speaking to my mother. And so I was nervous to tell her that, hey, I'm not going to be the first doctor in our family. And I finally had a conversation with her, and she said to me, it's your life, and you have to do what makes you happy, and I support you regardless of whatever you do. And so that was all I needed. She told me that she would support me. She reminded me that it was my life, and so I made that transition. What I love about business is that the field of business is always changing. There's so much to learn. There's so much to be able to do. And my business studies really helps me to gain a lot of skills and knowledge that I may not have done otherwise. I took courses in accounting and economics and international business and learning about business in other cultures. And so I thought that fit me quite well. I'm a very organized person, meticulous, I like structure. And so business certainly seemed like the best fit for me. My biggest accomplishment. I would have to say that my biggest accomplishment is seeing people that I've given opportunities to, that I've hired, go on to do bigger and better things. They go on to get promotions, they advance in their careers, and just seeing them thrive is one of my greatest accomplishments, and it's one of the things that I love about being a talent management professional. You get to touch so many different lives. And it seems so small, but the impact is so great. So seeing those persons that I've given opportunities to do so much more, it always makes me happy. So it's certainly one of my greatest accomplishments. My answer to this question is always, I don't really have any regrets. There's nothing that I've sat down and said, oh my goodness, I could have done this differently, I wish I had. I feel like, all of the different things that have happened to me, the delays, the time it took for me to reach some of my goals, I think all of it was meant to be. I think everything happens for a reason, and everything happens in its time. And so there's no regrets that are so great that I could say that it's something that I could stay here. But if I had to say one thing, I wish I had double majored in business and Spanish, because I was good in Spanish in high school and college. I wish I had double majored and got that degree in Spanish as well. And maybe today I would be bilingual. So that's one thing, but no major regrets. Me llamo Tara y tengo 36 años. Can someone in the comments translate that? One of my greatest loves aside from work is, I would say, writing. I am actually a writer. I feel like that's a title you give to someone that has written all these great things and published so many things, but I am a writer. I've been writing from about 10 years old. My aunt, she gave me a journal for Christmas one year, and nobody ever told me what to do with it. No one ever told me to write, and I just started writing. I wrote about things that I thought and I felt, and I continue to do that. I still keep a journal to this day, but that love kind of grew with me. And so as I went into college, it evolved. I got into Deaf Poetry Jam and watching Deaf Poetry Jam in college, and I started writing poetry. I started a blog, a Tumblr blog, which I still have. And I started writing poetry and kept going with that, and I wrote a number of different things within that time. And I've continued to do that. I ultimately do want to write a book one day. I don't know when that'll be, but it's in progress. But writing is one of my loves, for sure. I love words. And there's a word for someone who loves words. It's called a logophile. The greatest advice that I have been given, my dad growing up used to have a lot of sayings. And one of the things he used to say is, if you rush the brush, you'll spill the paint. I think that advice has helped me in a number of different places in my life. But one of the places I feel like that applies is when I was doing my master's degree. And so after I completed my degree, my bachelor's degree in 2009, I knew that I wanted to go on and do my master's. And I knew that it was something that was essentially going to be my responsibility. And I started the program in 2013, and I started and I stopped. And I took a break at a time that I needed to take a break, but I started again. And so while the program was supposed to maybe taking 1 to 2 years, it actually took me 5 years to complete. And I was just motivated by the fact of I want to complete this degree, I want to meet this goal. And I didn't let the time that it took hinder me. I just broke up my goal into, I took it semester by semester. And slowly but surely, I made it happen. So it took 5 years, but I got it done. And that always meant like, you don't have to do things in a hurry. You don't have to be in a rush to get from here to there. Take your time. And I think I've tried to implement that into my life in other ways. I think a lot of times we put pressure on ourselves. We rush ourselves to do any number of things, but it's important to sometimes stop, be still, plan, take a breath, and then proceed. And don't take delays as an issue, as something to fret over. Everything happens in its time. And so whenever you get done with whatever you're doing, whenever you achieve that goal is when it's supposed to happen. So don't rush it. Everything happens in its time. What most people don't know about me, I am actually an introvert. People are surprised by that. So I am a Toastmaster. I have no problem speaking in front of people, speaking in front of a crowd, making a presentation, teaching a class. I can do all of that. But as an introvert, I do have to recharge, and I take some time alone and do that. So that's what it means to be an introvert. So it doesn't mean that I'm shy. It just means that I recharge on my own, and I need some time to myself sometimes. So that's one thing a lot of people probably don't know about me. This is me trying to figure out, okay, my unpopular opinion, I don't know. I really don't know. Nothing's coming to mind right now. Next question. Favorite Bahamian word or phrase? So my favorite Bahamian word would probably be bye, because it's so diverse and you can use it in so many different ways. It could be like bye, like you surprise, or bye, like you trying to let somebody know I'm playing. So bye is versatile. So that's my favorite Bahamian word. All right, so my unpopular opinion, I feel like we as a community need to support our young people a bit more. We need to go back to the old way of doing things. We need to teach them how to take care of themselves. We need to help them with their homework. We need to make sure that they are engaged in positive activities. I think we need to go back to our old school way of doing things and support our youth so that they can grow up and then support the young people coming up under them. I think too many young people are left to their own devices, and they really need us as a community. So parents, family, friends, let's surround our young people, love on them, support them, and continue to guide them. So to connect, you can find me on Facebook, Tara Dames, or on Instagram, Fabulosity, TEE_.
If you like what you saw, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and join us on our journey as we create more content on our way to getting our first play button.